Chapter 61. Beat me and I'll act dignified. As he was kicked back into the encirclement, Tang Wuling discovered that his soul power was being consumed rapidly. In no time at all, 10 levels of soul power had been used up. Papa. One by one, the upper grade students broke free of the blue silver grass. Tang Wuling had bound so many people simultaneously, but they were able to break free of the blue silver grass with their greater level of soul power. After breaking, the side effect of his variant blue silver grass revealed itself. His soul power was quickly depleting. Brat, you dared crash into me. The upper grade student shouted as he swung his fist towards Tang Wuling's face. Stop. Muzai sharply shouted. The male student resentfully stayed his hand, but he still shoved Tang Wuling onto the ground. Tang Wuling finally noticed that Muzai was the one who had previously released that blazing light. Shockingly, 2 yellow 100-year soul rings rose up from her feet. Atop her head was a golden ball of light that blazed like the sun. On her left shoulder was a small, round flame, pulsing with energy. It seemed that this flame was her spirit soul. Its blaze was momentarily restrained, but the surrounding temperature had still risen by a few degrees. What kind of martial soul was this? It had an aura of power around it. The other upper grade students hurried to get out of the way as Muzai walked towards Tang Wuling. Although her martial soul's heat had been restrained, it was still as imposing and valiant as before. 2 rings. That meant she was already a soul grandmaster. I am Muzai of 5th grade class 1. I want to compete with you in forging. If you have any desire to continue studying in this academy, then you can't decline. Muzai coldly stated. Ever since she was a child, Muzai had been an exceptionally competitive girl. Tang Wuling glared at her. He hated people who threatened him the most, and soon, his stubborn side took over. Right as he was about to speak, an ice-cold voice intervened. If you guys want to live, then stop spewing so much bullshit and screw off with your henchmen. Muzai's expression soured as her slender and tender body grew taut. Her eyes, however, revealed a trace of surprise. Others wouldn't know what was going on, but she was able to clearly feel a cold sensation on her neck. She felt that if she moved even an inch, her throat would be slit. She didn't dare move, not even to release her martial soul. Make all of those guys leave. An eerie voice came from her side, accompanied by a face. Wasn't this Shishi? Shishi wasn't much shorter than Muzai, so he was able to wrap one arm around Muzai's shoulder, while his other hand pointed his light dragon dagger at her waist. You scoundrel. What do you think you're doing? That previous upper grade male student spoke out. Shishi coldly answered, my patience is limited. If you believe that I don't dare to act in the academy, then you can try my hand. As he said this, Shishi exerted pressure through his light dragon dagger, causing Muzai to cry out in pain. All of you, leave. Muzai quickly shouted. She could clearly feel the killing intent from behind her. After all, she was only 12 years old. In a situation like this, she couldn't help but succumb to her rising fear. The upper grade students had no other choice, so they began to leave. Right at that moment, however, a thunderous voice bellowed out. Stop. Shishi's whole body shivered. He immediately put away his light dragon dagger and his invisible shadow dragon dagger. Immediately afterwards, a tall figure picked him up like a baby chick. Intermediate Division's teaching building. Out with it. What happened? Teaching director Long Henshu asked with a frown. Muzai said with her head lowered. I was just looking for Tang Wuling to have a forging competition with me. Shishi sneered. You brought a whole group of henchmen to our first grade dorm. Is that how your senior students find people? Long Henshu coldly glared at him. Didn't you threaten your senior student with a blade? What would you have done if they hadn't stopped? Would you have really killed her? Shishi's lips began to twitch as his gaze swept the senior students with disdain. I can't say for sure. Long Henshu turned towards Tang Wuling. What about you? You're the one who acted first. Do you have an explanation? Tang Wuling's eyes had a gentleness to them, but his expression was extremely resolute. When I was just a child, my dad explained some principles. When I entered the elementary academy, he told me that if he found out I was bullying my underclassmen, he would ruthlessly lecture me. However, if the older students bullied me, then I should hit them back without any hesitation and he wouldn't blame me at all. As he looked at the child in front of him, Long Henshu was surprised to find that after acting as the teaching director for so many years, he had finally met someone who could leave him speechless. Well said. I don't think my student has done anything wrong either, Wu Zhangkong said with an ice-cold voice as he walked into the office. Long Henshu's expression soured. Teacher Wu, have you already forgotten the most basic of manners, such as knocking? Wu Zhangkong coldly apologized. Sorry. Long Henshu's face twitched. Where's the sincerity in this guy's apology? He'd already caused headaches for the advanced division's teaching director. And now, even after being transferred to the intermediate division and being tasked with the worst class, he hasn't changed at all. The big taking advantage of the small, huh? You guys sure have some skill. Wu Zhangkong's ice-cold gaze swept through Muzai's group of 5th grade students. Taking advantage of the small isn't something I would do, but if I find that you've provoked my students again, I'll beat up the teacher in charge of your class. Long Henshu furiously said, Teacher Wu, please conduct yourself with dignity. Wu Zhangkong coldly answered, if you can beat me, then I'll act with dignity. After speaking, he grabbed Shishi's head with one hand and dragged Tang Wuling with the other. They left the teaching building. Long Henshu angrily got up, wanting to stop Wu Zhangkong, but then he recalled the things Wu Zhangkong had dared to do in the advanced division. After recalling these things, he no longer had the courage to stop him. This guy was simply a madman. You guys. Every single one of you will face a round of disciplinary action. You truly are skilled if you can bully the weak as the strong. Red hot anger sprouted out of the teaching director, completely directed at these 5th grade students. After leaving the teaching building, Wu Zhangkong released Tang Wuling's hand and walked in front of them. As he gazed at Wu Zhangkong's tall and straight back, Tang Wuling hastily picked up his pace to chase after him. Thank you, teacher. Wu Zhangkong indifferently said. You didn't do anything wrong, so there's no reason to thank me. No one is allowed to delay my classes. Shishi caught up to them. A rare smile plastered on his face. Teacher Wu, you were so cool just now. I truly admire you. Even if you give us hellish training, I won't complain at all. Remember your words, Wu Zhangkong faintly said. Shishi. Tang Wuling pulled on Shishi's arm. I have to thank you too. Chapter 62. Douluo. Shishi was somewhat vexed as he said, why are you speaking so awkwardly? You don't need to thank me. I just don't like it when people bully others with numbers, or when the big bully the small. Tang Wuling smiled. We're friends now. Shishi's mouth twitched. You make friends too easily. I don't consider you my friend yet. Tang Wuling said, that's not important. Shishi soon began to regret the words he had said to Wu Zhangkong. Wu Zhangkong was definitely a teacher who was true to his word. He immediately began the physical training class he had spoken of the day before. The basics of physical training was running. In the intermediate division of East Sea Academy, there was a track field with an 800-meter long loop. They were ordered by Wu Zhangkong to run 10 laps around this track in the morning as a warm-up. However, when they saw Wu Zhangkong take out 2 heavy chains, each weighing 10 kilograms and fashioned into metal shirts, for Tang Wuling and Shishi to wear, the two didn't dare say anything. In fact, they could only rejoice. If it were yesterday, Shishi definitely would have rebelled with that temper of his. But today, he didn't resist at all. Even though he was still haughty, he would still put his greatest effort into doing everything Wu Zhangkong commanded. Shishi truly admired Wu Zhangkong. Shishi had never thought of his own icy arrogance as shameful. He even considered it to be honorable. However, not only was this teacher colder and prouder than him, he was also extremely powerful. The title of icily arrogant Prince Charming was definitely a well-deserved one. Tang Wuling was silent. With regards to training at this intensity, he could only feel excitement. Shishi was an agility system battle soulmaster, so despite wearing a 10-kilogram metal shirt, he was still very fast at the beginning. On the other hand, Tang Wuling's pace wasn't fast, but it was as steady as an army's march. 2 laps later, however, Shishi and the other students' pace began to slow. They were panting and heaving after 4 laps, and their lungs felt as if they were burning. The metal shirt began to feel even heavier. Soon, Shishi didn't even have the strength to regret the words he spoke to Wu Zhangkong. How are you doing? Tang Wuling's voice suddenly came from behind him. Shishi turned around and saw that although Tang Wuling was sweating, his situation seemed much better in every way. I'm still good. Shishi said with gritted teeth as his pace increased once more. Would he actually let this guy overtake him? Tang Wuling's breathing was steady as he said. It was reasonable for teacher Wu to have us carry weights. After all, we're the representatives for our class in the class promotion tournament. Shishi remained silent. For the current him, even speaking would be considered a burden. 5 laps. She was already unable to control his own body. To him, his body was as heavy as lead. Tang Wuling had actually passed him long ago. However, his situation was completely different from Shi. The 10-kilogram metal shirt was practically nothing to Tang Wuling. Tang Wuling had only just warmed up after running those 5 laps. Tang Wuling stealthily stretched out a hand and placed it under Shi's arm, making Shi feel lighter and allowing him to increase his pace. Shi looked at Tang Wuling in surprise. In response, Tang Wuling only smiled as he increased his pace and brought up Shi's pace to a run. Wu Zhangkong stood at the middle of the track, watching the defeated students with a serene expression and an occasional frown. Tang Wuling, you sure have a lot of energy. Since you're bringing him along, you can run an extra 10 laps. Shi turned his head to look at Tang Wuling, only to see that his expression was just as calm as before. Tang Wuling simply muttered, if I have an extra 10 laps, then I'll need to pick up my pace. I can't be late for lunch. I'm already so hungry after missing breakfast. Shi couldn't help but ask, are you even human? Aren't you tired at all? Tang Wuling gave him a slight smile. I'm still fine. At that moment, a girl walked through the gates that lead to the field from the direction of the academy buildings. She was dressed in white and was the same age as the students in the first grade class 5. Although she wasn't particularly beautiful, she was still a bit delicate and pretty, with long black hair and black eyes. Her build was about average among her peers. She was still very well proportioned, and her pair of bright eyes were full of life. As she walked forwards, her steps seemed to have a special rhythm to them, and her aura had an exotic feel to it. Wu Zhangkong's gaze soon landed on her as she wasn't wearing a school uniform. She had come while class was still in session. What class are you in? Wu Zhangkong asked as he walked over. The girl's attention seemed to have been attracted by something else, as she watched Tang Wuling run, who was dragging Shi along. Apparently, she had taken an interest in the 2 people wearing metal shirts. I'm here to attend school. However, I was told that the registration period has already passed, she said as she looked up towards Wu Zhangkong. Wu Zhangkong's expression soured. You're not an East Academy student? The girl said, I'm not a student at the moment, but I still want to be a student here. Is that possible? Teacher, if it were any other teacher, they might have immediately driven her away. However, was Wu Zhangkong just any other teacher? No. This is a Soul Masters Academy. If you want to attend here, then you must have the ability, Wu Zhangkong coldly said. I can take a test. The girl smiled. Wu Zhangkong asked, what's your name? The girl answered, my name is Gu Yue. Wu Zhangkong nodded. All right. I'll give you a chance. After speaking, he turned around and went over to Tang Wuling and Shi. Shi, give your metal shirt to Tang Wuling and come over here. Due to Tang Wuling's assistance, Shi had completed the previous 2 laps in a relaxed manner. He quickly stopped, then took off his metal shirt and gave it to Tang Wuling. Will you be alright with another metal shirt? Tang Wuling said, it's still lighter than you. He took the metal shirt and calmly put it on before picking up his pace right in front of Shi. His physical strength truly isn't human. Panting, Shi arrived at Wu Zhangkong's side. Teacher Wu. Wu Zhangkong said, your physical strength is too horrible. Shi defiantly said, we agility system battle soul masters only need a burst of power and some nimbleness. We don't need to have too much physical strength. Wu Zhangkong disdainfully said, how shallow. Fine then, I'll give you a chance today. Defeat her and you won't have to run in the afternoon. It was then that Shi finally noticed the girl at Wu Zhangkong's side. After sizing her up, he took a deep breath and adjusted his soul power. No problem. Wu Zhangkong said, I'll give you 20 minutes of rest. We'll begin after those 20 minutes are up. Shi didn't complain as he immediately sat cross-legged and began meditating. Running had consumed a lot of his soul power and physical strength. For agility system battle soul masters, this truly wasn't an area they excelled. Chapter 63, Gu Yue versus Shi. Gu Yue didn't even spare a glance for him. Instead, she looked all around at her surroundings with complete curiosity. Wu Zhangkong shot her a glance. Looking down on your opponent isn't the smartest behavior. Gu Yue said, I'm not looking down on him. Although that's what her mouth said, her eyes seemed to be saying that she wasn't even worth looking down upon. Wu Zhangkong spoke no further. He diverted his attention back to the students who were running instead. Although Tang Wuling's pace couldn't be considered fast, it was exceptionally steady, even with the 2 metal shirts he wore. Like this, Tang Wuling somehow ran at the forefront. The person behind him was Zhou Tangxi, whose body strength undoubtedly gave him an advantage in physical training such as this. Tang Wuling's attention was diverted to the center of the field as he ran. He was curious as to why this girl had suddenly appeared. Right as he looked at the new girl, Gu Yue, she also turned to look back at him and their gazes met. Gu Yue had a meaningful look in her eyes, which gave Tang Wuling the impression that her eyes were exceptionally sharp. 20 minutes soon passed. Shi shot forward and went through a few exercises. His body was once again brimming with energy. Wu Zhangkong nodded. Stand 30 meters apart from one another and prepare. Shi retreated backwards, each step moving him back at an equal distance. From start to finish, Shi's gaze hadn't left Gu Yue. He felt threatened when he'd first seen this girl, and now treated her wholeheartedly as a worthy opponent. During the battles between Tang Wuling and Shi, Tang Wuling hadn't been the only one who had benefited. Shi had gained from them as well. At the very least, he understood what it meant when even a tiger had to hunt a rabbit with all of its strength. It was only once the 2 of them were 30 meters apart from one another that Gu Yue's gaze stopped wandering and settled on Shi. Begin. Wu Zhangkong simply announced. In the wake of Wu Zhangkong's shout, Shi immediately released his martial soul and flew towards his opponent with his maximum speed. His explosive power was truly astonishing. He launched forwards like a vigorous cheetah. The 30-meter distance between them rapidly closed. Gu Yue didn't seem to react at all. When she finally raised her hand, Shi was but 10 meters away from her. The light dragon dagger sparkled as it struck forth. Shi hadn't released his soul skill immediately. Since he was only a one-ring soul master, he only had one soul skill. Good steel is to be used on the cutting edge of a blade, so he had to wait for best opportunity to erupt with the soul skill. Furthermore, his opponent seemed to have a slow reaction time, so maybe he wouldn't even need to use his soul skill. At that moment, the pace of the running class 5 students on the track grew even slower. All of their attention was diverted to the battle occurring in the middle of the field. Shi was the most formidable person in their age group, so they thought that this new girl definitely wouldn't be able to defeat him. A soul ring appeared from beneath Gu Yue's feet. This soul ring was the same as Shi's. It was actually a 100-year yellow soul ring. However, Shi was already right in front of her. It was too late for her to do anything now, unless she were an agility system battle soul master. Was she? Definitely not. A green halo burst out of her chest, but Shi was right in front of her now. His light dragon dagger was poised to stab into her shoulder. The green light lingered and Shi's light dragon dagger stabbed into it. Unexpectedly, a force began pressing on him from both sides, like a blowing gale. The light dragon dagger stopped in midair, unable to continue its thrust forward at all. Immediately afterwards, Shi was dumbstruck when he saw the green light around Gu Yue turn red and a fireball about the size of a fist appeared right in front of him. Shi certainly proved himself as an agility system battle soul master. At this critical moment, he ferociously twisted his waist in midair and spun horizontally. That little fireball missed his face by a hair, only being able to scorch a few hairs on his head. Just as his foot touched the ground, Shi launched himself back, putting quite a distance between him and Gu Yue. What was that power just now? After several hops back, he had opened up a distance of 20 meters between the 2 of them. When Shi looked at Gu Yue now, a serious expression could be seen. Gu Yue's eyes flashed with a twinkle of surprise. Naturally, she hadn't raised her hand so late due to a slow reaction time, but rather, it had been deliberate. It had all been for the sake of ending the fight in one attack. However, she had never expected Shi's reaction to be even faster than hers. He had actually been able to avoid that fireball. Her serious gaze pierced through Shi, while Wu Zhangkong gave her a similar look. This was because Wu Zhangkong hadn't been able to discern what Gu Yue's martial soul was. Just what was this girl's martial soul? That green light seemed to be of the wind element, but that fireball was clearly of the fire element. Could it be? She has twin martial souls of the wind and fire elements. If this was the case, then it would truly be picking up a precious jewel. Shi was a bit short of breath, but he shot towards Gu Yue once more. His speed was clearly faster than before, and he didn't go straight at her this time. Rather, he circled around Gu Yue with lightning speed. His speed was so fast that others weren't even able to keep up with his movements. Like this, the distance between the 2 of them rapidly closed. The yellow soul ring on Gu Yue's body twinkled, concealing her spirit soul. She simply stood there calmly, not even turning to face Shi as he circled her. As the distance grew closer and closer, Shi suddenly exploded forth, sliding forwards at a slant. When he was just 5 meters from Gu Yue, his 100-year soul ring suddenly shined brightly, and he waved his light dragon dagger, sending a blade of light flying towards her. 100-year soul skill. The first soul skill of Shi's light dragon dagger, light dragon blade. The yellow light blade flew through the air while issuing out a dragon's roar. The light grew more and more brilliant. The strangest thing, however, was that as it got closer to Gu Yue, until it was finally only 1 meter away from her, it suddenly twisted in the air and changed directions. That was right. This was a powerful 100-year soul skill. Moreover, it had come from Shishi's high-class martial soul. Unfortunately, the opponent he faced today was truly unreasonable. Right as the light dragon blade was about to slash Gu Yue's shoulder, a green light appeared once again, meeting the light blade with extreme precision. It was almost as if the green light were also a light blade, only a green-colored one. The green light blade wasn't as powerful as the light dragon blade and was chopped apart in moments. However, that moment's delay allowed Gu Yue to take a step out of the way, completely avoiding the light dragon blade. Chapter 64, Elemental Mastery. Shishi hadn't considered the possibility of defeating his opponent in a single move. Thus, as his light dragon blade flew was flying towards Gu Yue, his body sprang towards her as well. While Gu Yue was pacing away from Shishi, he had already calculated the distance and appeared on Gu Yue's side with his light dragon blade raised. The outcome seemed like Gu Yue had clashed against his dagger. This unexpected move had even earned a nod from the strict Wu Zhangkong. Although Shishi's cultivation hadn't reached 2 rings, he had started to grasp the profound meaning of being an agility system battle soul master. Tang Wulin had his eyes on this match as well. This allowed him to deeply experience the huge difference between him and Shishi. His first win was an unexpected victory, and his second was because of the strange golden scales. But in reality, Shishi's abilities were far above his. Shishi's landing point was a meter away from Gu Yue. This position was within his predictions, allowing him to be within a suitable distance to attack his opponent, but still with sufficient space for escape. Facing a powerful opponent allowed him a chance to further release his potential. However, this opponent was unexpectedly tough. As soon as the tips of his feet touched the ground, Shishi felt a sudden suction from the ground, as if stepping into a muddy swamp. He lowered his left leg with a previous intention to spring himself up, but it had changed instantaneously into a ground attack. Gu Yue staggered and her body tilted slightly forward, which allowed her to successfully avoid Shishi's attack. At the same time, an icicle shot out from her hand. Its target was not Shishi, but the area underneath his feet. The icicle struck onto the mud puddle that Shishi's left foot was in and hardened. Shishi's leg was stuck. Gu Yue turned and waved her hand. A fireball appeared and flew towards Shishi. In this close proximity, it was impossible for Shishi to dodge, even if he was an agility system battle soul master. However, at this point of time, Shishi revealed his true capabilities. His light dragon blade appeared and slashed accurately at the incoming fireball. The fireball smashed into a cluster of embers. Gu Yue raised both her arms and released both the icicles and fireballs continuously. With only a light dragon blade, Shishi was soon unable to block off Gu Yue's shots. But at the same time, he raised his left hand and the glint between his eyes glowed more intensely. As an agility system battle soul master with twin martial souls, his movement and speed capabilities were strapped off, but he still had confidence in fighting a close-ranged battle. Both of them had 1 soul ring, which meant that they hadn't reached rank 20 in cultivation. With the gift of twin martial souls and a rank 18 soul master, Shishi was confident on winning against his opponent by competing purely on soul power consumption. Light dragon dagger and shadow dragon dagger both danced in the air and struck precisely at Gu Yue, who collapsed in defeat. It demonstrated Shishi's incomparably precise judgment. Wu Zhangkong's eyes reflected an array of colors, not only for Shishi's performance, but Gu Yue's as well. Ice, fire, earth, wind. These 4 elements had been displayed in her match with Shishi, and the display showed a variation of skills in both control and attacks. Though Wu Zhangkong didn't fully understand where Gu Yue's soul skills originate, judging from her ability to utilize 4 elements all at once with a soul ring proved that she possessed a superior martial soul. A cold grin broke out from the corner of Shishi's mouth. Though you are strong, your soul power is incomparable to mine. I possess twin martial souls, and I'm ranked 18. Even by competing solely on the soul power consumption, I can defeat you. It was obvious that everyone else was a 1-ring soul master. Shishi started feeling the frozen mud loosening and managed to free himself from the shackles that bound his leg. The situation had turned in his favor. However, at this very moment, he caught the grin on Gu Yue's face, shortly followed by a white ball of light from his opponent's hand instead of fireballs. The light bursted before Shishi's eyes and blinded him instantaneously. Not good. A voice inside Shishi called out, and his pair of daggers started waving before him, in hope that by using an intensive series of attacks will fend off the opponent's blows. Good. Let's stop here. Wu Zhangkong voiced out. Shishi's sight was only regained after 10 or so seconds, but his eyes were clouded with tears. You've won. Wu Zhangkong pointed his comment towards Gu Yue. Shishi argued, Teacher, I didn't lose. My attacks were very intensive and she didn't manage to break it with her attacks. Wu Zhangkong voiced out coolly. You've lost. Just take it. While you were anxiously waving your daggers about, she had already moved to your side. Gu Yue grinned. The silver light on her body blinked and shot out 3 meters horizontally. This stunned Shishi. What ability is this? Gu Yue looked towards Wu Zhangkong. Teacher. So, am I admitted into this academy now? Wu Zhangkong nodded his head. I'll definitely fulfill my promise. However, tell me what is your background, and what was that martial soul of yours? Gu Yue brought out a piece of letter from her chest. This is a recommendation letter from my elementary academy, and as of my martial soul, it is elementalist. Elementalist? Wu Zhangkong questioned himself on the fact that though he had seen much and widened his horizons, this was the first time he had heard of the existence of this martial soul. Gu Yue's match with Shishi had displayed her shocking and unrivaled abilities in the following 6 elements: ice, fire, earth, wind, light, and space. One has to know that within the types of martial souls, possessing even one type of element would have been a miraculous existence, but possessing all 6 of the elements, that would have been hard to imagine. When Gu Yue noticed the shock in Wu Zhangkong's eyes, she shared more about her abilities without the intention to hide. I am able to control all 6 elements, but I am unable to attach my soul ring onto any of these elements. Thus, although I can control the change in elements, it is hard to strengthen them. My first soul skill is elemental tide. It allows my soul power to hold on for a long period of time, and at the same time, allowing me the ability to better control the strength of the elements. After hearing Gu Yue's descriptions, Wu Zhangkong finally understood. As expected, there was absolutely no way to have that kind of control of all the elements and an unusually powerful soul per element. She only had 1 martial soul, not 6. The ability to control all 6 elements at the same time would mean that she wouldn't be able to specialize in any one element, and all of the 6 elements didn't come with additional soul skills. What Gu Yue had displayed a moment ago derived from how she was able to control the elements, as well as their release. No wonder none of the abilities seemed particularly strong, and it was only under Gu Yue's clever application that allowed her to defeat Shishi. However, this martial soul of Gu Yue's was definitely a superior one, and it wouldn't pale in comparison to twin martial souls in any way. Disregarding other abilities, her mere use of the earth element to construct a swamp to trap Shishi, and her use of ice element to freeze it was a sign that she had some knowledge in making use of the element's properties to her advantage. If she were to be trained appropriately, it would be possible to groom her into a genius soul master. Wu Zhangkong continued. Good. I've understood. You are now a part of our class. First year class 5. Chapter 65. Did you win? Thank you, teacher. Gu Yue nodded with a grin on her face. Wu Zhangkong's demeanor turned cold. You should join them in running. This is a compulsory physical education. Shishi, you too. Shishi pointed out with a bitter face. Teacher, weren't we free from running due to the match? Wu Zhangkong answered coldly. Did you win? I. Shishi's heart burned with rage as well as filled with depression. Wasn't this so? If one related his matches with Tang Wuling, then most of Tang Wuling's successors had some component of luck. However, he had exerted all his efforts and power into this match with Gu Yue, and in the end, he had still lost. This girl's martial soul was too weird, wasn't it? It was even weirder than his own pair of dragon daggers. Gu Yue smiled. She didn't try to avoid the training but ran towards the side of field and joined the rest of her classmates in their run. Shishi let out a long sigh as he didn't have much choice but to join in the training as well. Gazing at the figures, Wu Zhangkong's steely expression cracked to reveal a rare smile. He turned and walked in the direction of the main academic building. Gu Yue's steps were light and quick. As she reached Tang Wuling, she asked him with curiosity, "Why did you wrap iron chains around your body?" Tang Wuling replied, "To build up my strength. The teacher gave me stricter requirements." "You sure are formidable." Gu Yue grinned. "I'm really not that great. None of my elements are even that strong. It was just that I had controlled them well. All martial souls are the same. As long as you have enough soul power and you can fully comprehend as well as control your martial soul well, then it will bring you surprises." Tang Wuling's heart moved a little upon hearing Gu Yue's thoughts. Control. Is your waist not tired at all from all that standing and speaking? Who could have controlled their martial soul in as many different ways as yours? Shishi's voice, with an air of nonchalance, sounded from Tang Wulin's other side. Without needing to wear the weighted clothes, and after taking a break, he felt rather relaxed when he ran now. Gu Yue answered, that's because you haven't understood your own martial soul well enough. Shishi was not convinced. How are you so sure that I don't understand fully? Gu Yue replied, you were just defeated. Need I explain more? Shishi grieved and felt like smashing his head into the wall. Was he not a prodigy? What had happened to him after entering this academy? Even more so, this was in the worst class, yet he was humiliated repeatedly. Wu Zhangkong walked into the school building. All of the classes were still being held, thus the corridors were empty. Walking up to the teaching office, he stopped abruptly and thought deeply before knocking on the door. Come in. Long Henshu sounded. Zhangkong opened the door and entered. Long Henshu was seated behind his work desk and sulking away. He was in a deep thought on how to manage his relationship with Wu Zhangkong. Today, this guy hadn't given him any face. However, if he were to try to get Wu Zhangkong expelled, that would be practically impossible. Even more so if he were to seek the president's agreement. How would he suggest to give punishments to Wu Zhangkong instead? Wu Zhangkong had already been sent to teach the worst class of class 5. How much more severe a punishment could he be given? Could this be the cause of his attitude? Was that why Wu Zhangkong was acting like a dead mouse that feels no cold? Long Henshu's expression turned into one of surprise when he realized that Wu Zhangkong just walked into the office. With a cool front, Long Henshu asked, Teacher Wu, how may I help you? Wu Zhangkong walked up to his desk with a calm expression, then bowed towards Long Henshu. Sorry, Director Long. I have come to apologize to you. Eyeing his bow, if one were to describe Long Henshu's previous heart as full of displeasure, then it would have turned into complete shock in that split moment. What situation was this? The icily arrogant Prince Charming came to apologize. Had the sun risen from the west? Towards this teacher with such extreme characteristics, he had quite some knowledge of him. Since Wu Zhangkong's first day at the academy, he had been in the limelight. He had the looks, the strength, and the name of being the most powerful person in the academy. But he was as arrogant as he was unyielding, and he hadn't complied with the academy's teaching syllabus and acted solely in accordance with his own views. The female students within the academy had since given him the name of Prince Charming. This man even had the cheek to disregard the president. It was said that there was once a time when the president had sought to speak with Wu Zhangkong, and he'd just left halfway into the president's conversation. However, he had a right to be arrogant since he possessed 6 soul rings despite being under 30 years old. Furthermore, he was said to be from that monstrous place, but had ended up here for unknown reason. That was why this man only had eyes at the top of his head. But why did this man, Wu Zhangkong, apologize to him? Did the graveyard just turn into a garden? Wu Zhangkong continued seriously. What happened today is solely my fault. Thus, I am here to apologize. I hope to seek your forgiveness. Never mind. Long Henshu didn't know if he was shocked by Wu Zhangkong, or that the apologies had mellowed the rage in him, but as he replied in haste, it revealed some weakness in his vigor. Wu Zhangkong nodded his head and continued, Director Long, a new student has arrived in our class. She has just passed my test and fits well with our academy's conditions. In accordance to the academy's policies, if a potential student misses the date of admission, but has been accepted into the academy based on special conditions, they can only start from class 5. As such, I seek your permission in accepting her into the academy. As he spoke, he handed Long Henshu the letter that Gu Yue had provided him with. Long Henshu took the letter. Fine, I'll see to this. Wu Zhangkong replied, that's it for now. I'll wait for your permission. It was only now that Long Henshu finally regained his consciousness. He finally understood why Wu Zhangkong came to apologize. He'd done that so he could come and seek Long Henshu's assistance. However, Long Henshu was no longer enraged after receiving Wu Zhangkong's apologies. He didn't know why, but the icily arrogant Prince Charming's charm wasn't just effective on females. Teacher Wu, I will still have to remind you to leave me with some dignity in front of the students. Long Henshu voiced out bravely. All right. Wu Zhangkong nodded his head. Long Henshu didn't expect Wu Zhangkong to agree to him so easily. This icily arrogant Prince Charming held his head up high. It was also the reason why he was a man of his words. Since he'd agreed to it, he would see it to the end. Long Henshu didn't expect their relationship to turn out well so quickly. It seemed that for now, having Wu Zhangkong in the intermediate academy wouldn't be a bad thing after all. Teacher Wu seemed to hold this student with high regards. As he thought, Long Henshu opened the letter and read it in detail. This letter came from an elementary school in a small town, and looked like nothing special. Gu Yue, female. Soul power, rank 15, martial soul, elementalist. Elementalist? What kind of soul is that? Chapter 66, Elementalist. She's a genius, only I'll be able to teach her appropriately. I hope that Director Long would provide me with your support, and no matter what happens in the future, please ensure that she stays in my class. Long Henshu couldn't control himself anymore and asked, Elementalist, what martial soul is this? Teacher Wu is well informed. Surely you would have some knowledge of this. Wu Zhangkong replied, I've just seen it. It's not a bad type of martial soul. You will see it in action during the upcoming class promotion tournament. Having heard Wu Zhangkong mention the class promotion match, Long Henshu informed him, assigning Shishi to your class was because I hoped for something to happen from your class during this match. After all, when the worst class increases its strength, it would stimulate the class on top of it to work harder. The existence of this class promotion tournament is purely based on taking advantage of the students' sense of honor and stimulating them to practice harder. Teacher Wu, have you already decided the representatives you are going to bring into this tournament? Yes, I've thought about it. When Wu Zhangkong returned to his class, the task of running laps had been completed. Gather here. The students of class 5 came to him in the middle of the field like an army of seasoned troops. We will end today's morning training here. You're dismissed. Gu Yue, please stay. It finally ended. What bliss. Almost instantaneously, all the students made a dash for their dorms. They finally had time to rest. Because of the training, Gu Yue's little face looked redder than before. I'm Wu Zhangkong, the teacher in charge of your class. This is the key to your dorm, and these are your uniform and your textbooks. From today onwards, you are officially a member of class 5. Thank you, Teacher Wu. Gu Yue collected the items from Wu Zhangkong. Get some rest. We will continue our class in the afternoon. Shishi pulled Tang Wuling quickly towards the dorm. Why are you so rushed? What have you got to say? Come out with it. The reason Shishi rushed Tang Wuling towards their dorm a moment ago was obviously because he had something to say. Rest assured, I'm not asking for another fight. Shishi rolled his eyes. This is because I have good intentions towards your well-being. Have you seen that Gu Yue? Don't get too close to her. Tang Wuling asked. In doubt, how am I close to her? Weren't we being introduced to her just a few moments ago? Shishi snorted. Seeing that you were happily chatting with her just now, have you been smitten by her? Teacher Wu had mentioned that the class promotion match would require 2 participants at least. Previously it was us, but now that she's here, do you think you will stand a chance against her? Tang Wuling shook his head. Obviously not. I'll let her participate in it then. Shishi's eyes widened. Are you an idiot? The class promotion tournament comes with a reward. Do you not want to eat a meal from the first window? When it came to food, Tang Wuling felt trapped. He hadn't eaten since this morning because of Muzai, and the morning training only made him even hungrier. I'm guessing that Tang Wuling and that Gu Yue would participate in the match together. Zhou Sangxi walked in and had obviously overheard the conversation. Shishi pointed at himself. Are you saying I'm not participating? Zhou Sangxi explained. In your 3 matches with Tang Wuling, you have lost to him twice and your cheeks were even swollen from the one of them. And now, you've lost to Gu Yue today. Why would you think that the person eliminated would be Tang Wuling and not you? He was not too happy with Shishi from the beginning, and this was too good of an opportunity to strike at him. Shishi was shocked at Zhou Sangxi's comments, and as he thought back, he couldn't deny that these things never happen. His face contorted into a marvelous display. That's enough. Use your brains, will you? With Teacher Wu's character, he wouldn't go back on his word. Both of you will still be participating, and the person who won't be participating would be me. A minimum of 2 participants doesn't mean that there can only be 2 participants. It might even be 3. Yang Xiao was the last to enter the dorm. His expression filled with resignation and his gaze seemed to be asking where have all of your brains gone to? Tang Wuling rubbed his tummy. How many participants will be competing in the race is not important. What's important is that I'm hungry. I want to eat. Prior to the commencement of the afternoon class, another legend was being created at East Academy. A certain glutton god had set yet another record. With regards to the weird glances from the students, Tang Wuling was used to it. Without paying them mind, he simply chewed in big mouthfuls while seated within the dining hall. It was mere coincidence, as the menu for lunch was large buns again, and the rest of Tang Wuling's dorm mates almost had their eyes bulged out as he took one large bun after another into his stomach. She spoke seriously. In the future, if I ever use eating as a way to bet with you, I'm an idiot. Tang Wuling replied. Other than this, I wouldn't bet anything else with you. There's no motivation. I can't finish this. You can have it. At this moment, a sound came to him from the side, and then came the appearance of a huge snowy white bun, which was then placed on Tang Wuling's plate. Tang Wuling raised his head and looked. Wasn't it Gu Yue who gave him this bun? However, she had changed into the academy's uniform and looked similar to the students around her. Thank you. Tang Wuling nodded towards her. He always had the tendency of generating good feelings towards individuals who provided him with food. Gu Yue nodded towards him and turned to leave. Zhou Hangxi moved towards Tang Wuling mysteriously. Wuling, from my view, hasn't she fallen for you? Today, after joining us in our class, she took the initiative to speak with you. And now, she's even given you a bun. It seems to me that she's smitten with you. Tang Wuling replied with a face of helplessness. You are only 9, right? What kind of thoughts are in that brain of yours? Zhou Hangxi continued. During the last few days, I had thoughts on how to bash you up, but I don't anymore. It disappeared when you were hammering. Seeing that this guy was evading his questions, Tang Wuling returned to eating his buns in large bites. The afternoon class resumed with a physical training regimen that was even harsher than what they had in the morning. Where had the theory and knowledge class gone to? Wu Zhangkong's explanation was simple. With the current standard of the class, what was there to learn about theory and knowledge? When had the icily arrogant Prince Charming spoke been reasonable? Running was better in the sense that they could persevere, but when it switched to frog jumps, the field was filled with students of class 5 lying on the ground in less than 30 minutes. A full day of physical training had these 9-year-olds crawling back to their dormitories. Tang Wuling, Shishi, and Gu Yue come find me after your dinner. Wu Zhangkong mentioned coolly as the class ended. Shishi only stood stably with assistance from Tang Wuling. His legs were still shivering. Gu Yue was slightly better, but her hands were supporting both knees. This girl who possessed the elementalist martial soul was a gift from heaven. During their physical training, she was visibly more relaxed than the rest, and that wasn't because her stamina was better, but as her martial soul was an elementalist that allowed her to interact with the elements in the air, which watched over her as she trained. The wind elements allowed her to be light and quick. The light elements helped regain her energy. The fire elements replenished her power. The earth elements enriched her perseverance. The ice element enabled her coolheadedness. It seemed that every type of element was aiding her with the training. Chapter 67, Special Training. Why are you here this late at night? After Shishi's feud with Tang Wuling had turned into friendship, his cool exterior had somewhat diminished. His whole person had changed as well and he appeared more genuine. The air of a rich young master slowly disappeared. It was fortunate that Wu Zhangkong was their teacher and had his way with the class. If not, he wouldn't have been able to persevere in the physical training class. Teacher is doing that for our own good. Tang Wuling supported Shishi. An hour before dinner, most of the students had fallen into deep sleep. Although Tang Wuling was tired, he persisted and tried to meditate. In these 2 days, after he changed his method of meditation, he felt an improvement and increased efficiency of his physical recovery. A clumsy bird flies early. Those with a weak martial soul should work harder in cultivating. There were even classes in the evening. How would Tang Wuling be able to start forging his sky dragon iron? This was a problem. He could only forge the metal during midnight then, but that won't do. After completing this task, he would stop accepting other tasks, at least for the time being. After dinner, Tang Wuling was practically dragging Shishi to the field. Shishi was on the verge of walking away. As they reached the venue, Gu Yue was already there, and she seemed rejuvenated as well. It was already evening, and the last rays of sunlight had painted the sky in a fiery red color. The reflected light had accentuated Gu Yue's fine features. Wu Zhangkong had changed into a black training suit and was wearing a stern expression. Not far away, girls from the advanced academy crowded in 2s and 3s. Their gazes were fixated on Wu Zhangkong. Come with me, you 3. As he saw the 2 of them moving towards him, Wu Zhangkong turned and moved off. The trio followed behind Wu Zhangkong into the depths of the academy. Wu Zhangkong brought them with him to the back of the academy and into an indoor training ground. This was what he requested from Long Henshu during their meeting earlier that day. By expressing his support to Long Henshu's work, and by promising to not create trouble for this director in the teaching office, Long Henshu had returned his support by giving his approval to Wu Zhangkong's requests. Similarly, as a director in the teaching office, he was with the director of the advanced department. Wu Zhangkong had gotten into an intense argument with the director of the advanced department, to the point where he had even broken one of the director's legs. This was how he had been demoted to the intermediate academy, and if he wanted to build a good relationship with teacher Wu, it would help him earn many bonuses from the president. What selfish motives Long Henshu wasn't important to Wu Zhangkong as long as his objectives were reached. If not for Gu Yue, he wouldn't have compromised so easily with Long Henshu, and the apologies wouldn't have even existed. However, as he came to the intermediate academy in this instance, he had met with 2 students who deeply affected him, and if they were well trained, they would possess the competency necessary to enter that place. As for the other student, it was a rather peculiar case. While that student interested him, the student could barely compare to the brilliance of the other 2. This was the current situation for the 3. The training ground was circular and there were soul barriers in it. These were training areas for students with higher levels. Of course, if one's soul power has reached a certain rank, places like the fields would have been damaged easily. Wu Zhangkong brought the 3 into the middle of the building. From today onwards, you will all have to train with me at night. This is in preparation for the class promotion tournament in 3 months. As he got to this point, his gaze were first rested on Tang Wuling. Tang Wuling, your martial soul is blue silver brass. Previously, you were selected for the class promotion tournament because I had no other choice. Even though Gu Yue is here now, and having already seen her talent and power, whatever I said before won't change. But I hope that you will show me you are capable of representing class 5 in this match with your hard work. However, if after 3 months you fail to reach my requirements, I will be sending these 2 to participate in the match without you. Yes. Although Shishi had reminded him earlier, there was still a certain dullness inside Tang Wuling. Talent had always been a sore spot for Tang Wuling. Teacher Wu, I'm not participating in this match. Gu Yue suddenly said right at this moment. Wu Zhangkong looked towards her. Gu Yue spoke mildly. I'm a new transfer student, and I don't want to cause any implications to others. So, please take back your decision for me to participate in the match. Wu Zhangkong was shocked. Ever since he became a soul master, he had been proud son of the heavens, even after coming to East Academy with resignation. Not because he had been threatened, but because everyone else was too miserable. However, when this young lady spoke out, he realized that he couldn't do anything to her. He valued Shishi's twin martial souls highly, but in comparison to Gu Yue's elementalist, Shishi's was at a level lower. Tang Wuling, too, hadn't thought that Gu Yue would have done that for him and felt grateful towards her. Thanks, Gu Yue. However, teacher Wu's right. This will affect the honor of our class, and naturally, the strongest would compete. But please rest assured, I'll work hard as well. The number of participants doesn't stop at 2. If I train and strengthen myself sufficiently during these 3 months, I think teacher will allow me to compete. Wu Zhangkong was shocked as he looked towards Tang Wuling. The emotional intelligence of this kid was exceptional. His words not only showed his willingness to work hard, but had also relieved himself from a possible tense position. This hadn't only gave Wu Zhangkong a good impression of him, but also added some bonus points to it. Teacher, what are we going to do in this special training session? It can't just be more physical training, can it? Wu Zhangkong answered. Obviously not. Whatever training you are going through, there will only be one objective, and that is to increase your power. Power can be classified into 2 categories, hard power and soft power. From my point of view, all power originates from actual combat. Thus, your special training will include actual combat. We will use that to arouse your own potential, and also use it to give you combat experience. I'll brief all of you on the important pointers, and then you'll start. Shishi, the speed you have at this level is sufficient. However, your physical fitness is too weak, and you don't have the stamina for long battles. Thus, when battling, you have to be aware and control your physical strength. Your second martial soul is good at catching people off guard, but don't release it to your liking. You must only use it when an opportunity presents itself. Gu Yue, I have observed your elementalist martial soul today. Though I didn't want to say this, but with your current cultivation, your control of each element is pretty good. Tomorrow, I'll bring all 3 of you to get your spiritual power examined. Tang Wuling spoke. Teacher, I've done a spiritual power examination before. Wu Zhangkong broke him off coolly. I only believe what I see. Chapter 68. Your opponent is me. He turned towards Gu Yue and said, in the future, I hope that you will continue to experiment with fusing using different elements. I've been carefully reviewing your martial soul all day, and I've concluded that the elementalist martial soul is compatible with every element, but because none of these elements can be upgraded with the soul ring, they will never become powerful. You seem to have complete control of the different elements, which is a huge advantage in the beginning. However, as you cultivate to a high level in the future, you will discover that you won't have any powerful soul skills as a foundation. The soul rings that you obtain in the future will only be able to increase your control over the elements and the strength of your soul power. Under these circumstances, there is only one path to power for you. You need to be able to control more elements. This is an unprecedented path. However, when I saw you combine the earth and ice elements to trap Shishi today, I realized that if you were able to combine different elements and control their strength, you'll definitely be able to stand at the peak of the world in the future. This evaluation of Wu Zhangkong's wasn't spoken lightly. Clearly, he valued Gu Yue highly. Yes. Thank you, teacher. Gu Yue nodded. Wu Zhangkong finally turned to Tang Wulin. As for you, the first thing you need to do is to gain more control over your martial soul. I'm going to be honest with you. Even though your blue silver grass is a variant martial soul, it's still blue silver grass. Its tenacity is both a blessing and a curse for you. Unless you can control it perfectly, then it can't be called control at all. Therefore, you should develop yourself as a control system battle soul master. There's also that pair of hammers you used before. Your strength is a gift, and it's still very useful at this level. In the future, you can try to attack by combining your hammers with your blue silver grass. Yes. Tang Wulin responded with only one word. With that being said, we'll begin the special training now. Wu Zhangkong said indifferently. When Shishi heard that it wasn't physical training, but rather combat training, he immediately became much more spirited. He said eagerly, Teacher Wu, how are we being matched up? Wu Zhangkong answered, you guys won't be going one after another. Instead, all three of you will battle together. Your opponent is me, Tang Wulin, Shishi, and Gu Yue's expressions immediately stiffened. A light flashed in Wu Zhangkong's empty hands as a wooden sword appeared. I'm not going to use my soul power or any soul skills, but even so, you three must give me your all. Begin. As he said this, he had already shot forward with his wooden sword, quickly approaching Shishi. Shishi reacted with lightning speed and rapidly fell back. However, the sword was like a leech that was difficult to shake off. Even though his retreating speed was very quick, the wooden sword was quicker. Woo-woo. A deep muffled noise broke through the air. Tang Wulin had made his move. He had taken Wu Zhangkong's words to heart and immediately implemented his suggestion. The 1,000 refined tungsten hammer was flown out, smashing straight towards Wu Zhangkong. At the end of the handle, however, was a strand of blue silver grass that connected it to Tang Wulin. He knew that it would be a futile attempt to bind Wu Zhangkong directly with his blue silver grass. At Wu Zhangkong's level of soul power, it would only take a moment for him to break free. When that happened, Tang Wulin's soul power would be consumed to near exhaustion too, and he would no longer be able to use his blue silver grass. As for the 1,000 refined tungsten hammer that he had sent flying, Wu Zhangkong didn't even put them in his eyes, and continued forward with his sword. The tungsten hammer simply flew behind him. Tang Wulin made a face when his strike missed. A cool breeze brushed up from beside him, pushing Shishi out of the way and causing Wu Zhangkong's blood to meet nothing but air. Wu Zhangkong pursued, but the ground beneath his feet quickly grew soft and an icicle flew towards the ground. Gu Yue was using the same elemental combination technique as before. Wu Zhangkong revealed a calm smile. With a flick of his wrist, the wooden sword gracefully met the icicle, easily shattering it. At the same time, he jumped out of the mud. Woo-woo. Tang Wulin's 1,000 refined tungsten hammers arrived once again. This time, however, it wasn't just a single hammer, but rather, both of them were present. With both hammers in use, their attack range was even greater. Wu Zhangkong's wooden sword moved exactly to his wall and met with the tungsten hammers, causing them to both stop in mid-air and immediately drop to the ground. A flash of shock colored Wu Zhangkong's eyes. This little guy's strength is simply tyrannical. A fireball showed up at Wu Zhangkong's side. Once again, Gu Yue's attack had appeared at just the right moment. Wu Zhangkong's weapon was a wooden sword, so using fire to burn it was definitely the best choice. The wooden sword drew a circle in the air, causing a bizarre stream of air to appear. The fireball suddenly strayed from its path and soared above Wu Zhangkong, heading straight for Shishi instead. Shishi's light dragon dagger slashed at the fireball, breaking it into embers. He curled his body in mid-air as he was still within range of Wu Zhangkong. Then his left hand made a slight movement, and an invisible blade appeared as he thrust out with his light dragon dagger. Tang Wulin's 1,000 refined tungsten hammers shot towards Wu Zhangkong once again, bombarding Wu Zhangkong. Three fireballs also shot out right at that moment. Tang Wulin, Shishi, and Gu Yue had synchronized their attacks. Unfortunately, their opponent was simply too powerful. The wooden sword in Wu Zhangkong's hands easily transformed into numerous sword silhouettes. The two hammers were deflected while Shishi was struck in the shoulder and sent flying directly into the path of the three fireballs. If it wasn't for his courage, along with his light dragon dagger and shadow dragon dagger, he feared that he would have been seriously wounded. Wu Zhangkong dropped from the sky. This time, his target was Tang Wulin. The wooden sword thrust towards Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin didn't retreat. Shishi was still in a daze and wouldn't be able to help him, and Gu Yue had been buried under Shishi, which made her unable to support him. This situation had been meticulously manufactured by Wu Zhangkong in order to isolate him. True combat would excite a student's potential. This was exactly what he did back at the Advanced Academy. When faced with immense pressure, the student's potential would be revealed by how they reacted. At this crucial moment, Tang Wulin didn't shrink back. Instead, he launched his blue silver grass and used bind on Wu Zhangkong. Wu Zhangkong simply struggled a bit and broke free of Tang Wulin's blue silver grass, draining him of his soul power. There hadn't even been enough time for Tang Wulin to withdraw his hammers which he had previously sent flying. With the wooden sword striking towards his chest, Tang Wulin's expression turned to one of extreme focus. He still remembered the battle he had fought with Shishi before. It was only because he treated Shishi as metal that he had been able to reach such a level and persisted for so long. At this moment, he will once again treat Wu Zhangkong like metal. He quickly entered an ethereal state that was solely focused on forging. Two grey lights simultaneously flashed. A hammer appeared in his right hand, obstructing the wooden sword, while the hammer that appeared in his left hand smashed towards Wu Zhangkong. Ding! The wooden sword struck the hammer, issuing forth a crisp metallic note. Tang Wulin only felt a tremendous force being transmitted as the 1,000 refined heavy silver hammer flew into his stomach from the recoil, knocking him back. Chapter 69, Spirit Connection. As Tang Wulin entered a state of extreme focus, he became immensely clear-headed and knew very well that if he were to move backwards, the hammer in his left hand wouldn't be able to reach his feature. Thus, he loosened his grip on the hammer in his left hand which then abruptly flew towards Wu Zhangkong. Wu Zhangkong casually flicked the wooden sword in his hand, horizontally brushing Tang Wulin's left hammer. Wu Zhangkong's martial soul was actually a sword. He was practicing to reach the realm of one sword cleaves all techniques. Thus, regardless of whatever assault was used or whoever the opponent was, Wu Zhangkong chose to use only his sword. However, he suffered this time around. As the hammer and sword collided, Wu Zhangkong felt a strong wave of power transmit through his wooden sword. Although Tang Wulin's strength was unmatched by his, he had not released his martial soul and merely used a small portion of his soul power. Wu Zhangkong felt as though his wooden sword was on the verge of breaking. He wasn't even given a chance to gather more soul power when he felt the power flowing through his wooden sword double. Catcher. His wooden sword broke, and the 1,000 refined heavy silver hammer flew brazenly in the direction of his head. Wu Zhangkong flashed aside, avoiding the 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers with a close shave. Those seemingly small forging hammers fell towards the ground, creating a deafening booming sound. It gave Shishi, who was preparing to give his support to Tang Wulin, a big shock. Tang Wulin had forced back Teacher Wu, and even broke apart his wooden blade. Retreating back a few steps, Tang Wulin held up his heavy silver hammer up to his chest in defense. Wu Zhangkong stopped, staring blankly for a while. He knew Tang Wulin's hammers were a bit strange. Stop. He raised his hand, halting Gu Yue and Shishi, both of whom were preparing to resume battle. Shishi looked at Tang Wulin weirdly, and then switched his gaze towards the grey hammer on the ground that he'd never seen before. He felt his heart contract with a wave of fear in that instant. The first time he had battled Tang Wulin, he'd been bound up by Tang Wulin. If this hammer had gone down towards him, Tang Wulin rushed towards the ground and picked up the three hammers, returning them into his heavy silver ring. Your hammers are abnormal. Wu Zhangkong looked towards Tang Wulin with an eye filled with doubt. Tang Wulin answered him. These hammers were made with heavy silver, and are slightly heavier than normal forging hammers. How heavy could they be? Let me see. Shishi was very curious about those hammers, which had been able to break Teacher Wu's wooden sword apart. Dang. Shortly after the heavy silver hammer left Tang Wulin's hand, it dropped to the ground. Shishi fell from the huge force of the inertia. Ayo. Shishi growled in pain. What's this thing of yours? It's so heavy. Wu Zhangkong walked towards him and picked up the 1,000 refined heavy silver hammer. They moved him unknowingly. No wonder his wooden sword had broken apart. The weight of this hammer. Tang Wuling commented. One hammer weighs approximately 150 kilograms. Wu Zhangkong asked. There were 3 waves of power. Did you cause that, or was that from something else? Tang Wuling hesitated for a moment before answering Wu Zhangkong. That's the ability of those hammers. After forging with 1,000 refinements, unknown effects could be created. Mine came with one as well, and it's called the stacked hammers effect. Wu Zhangkong, though he had no knowledge of forging, knew that the pair of heavy silver hammers were precious. With a gentle nod, he questioned Tang Wuling. Are you very talented in forgery? I'm a blacksmith. As Tang Wuling thought about the treatment he'd been given from the Blacksmiths Association, he felt better. Wu Zhangkong's eyes revealed an expression of thoughtfulness as he raised his hand towards Tang Wuling. Come. Hold my hand. Tang Wuling grasped his hand. Wu Zhangkong's hand was huge and his fingers long. The grip felt cool, and there was not a hint of roughness. Pull me with all your might. Show me how great your strength really is. Wu Zhangkong ordered Tang Wuling. Oh, Tang Wuling answered. He took a deep breath before gathering strength from within both his arms as he pulled. Wu Zhangkong readied himself. Like a nail, he stood still without moving even a strand of hair. As Tang Wuling put in all of his strength, his little cheeks started to blush profusely. Though Wu Zhangkong looked seemingly still, the partially hidden soul power vibrations revealed that he wasn't as relaxed as he seemed to be. He actually had to utilize his soul power to prevent Tang Wuling from dragging him away. That's enough. After a moment, Wu Zhangkong stopped Tang Wuling. It was only then that Tang Wuling stopped his pulling. A strange color flashed across Wu Zhangkong's steely demeanor. He patted Tang Wuling's shoulder. In the class promotion tournament, the 3 of you should compete together. If you could exert your strength to the current amount, then adding in our tactics, it should be quite interesting. As Tang Wuling and Shishi returned to the dormitory, they were completely exhausted. Forget about forging. It would have been a miracle already if Tang Wuling could force himself into the meditation position. Starting from the next day, Tang Wuling was exclusively excluded from physical training classes. The reason was simply because Wu Zhangkong's physical fitness couldn't even compare with Tang Wuling's. Normal training was useless to a talented prodigy like Tang Wuling, and it would be better to make use of the time on other training. But what Tang Wuling was going to practice wasn't simple as well. It was to control his blue silver grass. The other students from the first grades class 5 couldn't withstand a physical education class anymore, and on the 3rd day, all of them fell into a mess on the ground. This was a return to the original schedule of having physical training class in the morning, then theory and knowledge class in the afternoon. As physical training classes were shortened to only half a day, the students felt more relaxed and nobody complained. Tang Wuling, Shishi, and Douluo had all gone through a spiritual power, and the results were astounding. Shishi's spiritual power was 29, which was regarded as good for others within his age group. It was considered a stage that near the mid-level within spirit origin. Tang Wuling's spiritual power was 44, which was also considered within the mid-level range of the spirit origin rank. He kept silent about his previous level, since the previous test showed that his spiritual power was 38, then within that short span of time, his inner spiritual power had grown by a lot. Both of their spiritual power levels had already stunned Wu Zhangkong somewhat. However, this was mild compared to what Douluo had to offer. Douluo's spiritual power was 119, far above the spirit origin rank. In ranking spiritual power, spirit origin was at the bottom. When the level of spiritual power grew above 100, it was considered to have entered the second rank, spirit connection. Spirit connection was when one's mind and heart could communicate, meaning one's thoughts and one's will were one. When one reaches the spirit connection rank, that is when their ability to control their spiritual power begins, and where one can start controlling their spiritual power for their own purposes. One would then be able to bear the load of 2 yellow spirit souls or 1 purple spirit soul. Wu Zhangkong finally understood that Douluo's martial soul, elementalist, might actually be a rare variation of a spiritual type martial soul. It could be controlled fully by her when both her huge spiritual power and martial soul, elementalist, communicated with one another. Spirit system battle soul masters were one of the rarest type of soul masters in the modern era, and also the most sought after. This was because they combined well with mechas. This resulted in Wu Zhangkong increasing his awareness of Douluo. Of course, their arduous training process wouldn't differ from others. One would be required to train even harder if they caught the icily arrogant Prince Charming's attention. And so, a week's time soon flew by. Tang Wuling hadn't taken time off to visit Mang Tian's workshop, so naturally he hadn't managed to complete his forging tasks. Chapter 70. Forge for me then, Didi. Just as he laid on his bed, Tang Wuling's soul communicator beeped. Tang Wuling had nearly forgotten about this matter. As a soul master, he didn't need to buy soul electricity to recharge his batteries. He could simply use his soul power to maintain it. The communicator displayed a particular number. Hello. Tang Wuling accepted the call. What are you doing? A familiar voice came from the other side of the communicator. When he heard this voice, Tang Wuling immediately grew alert and hastily sat up. Teacher. The owner of the voice was Mang Tian. What's the matter with you? You haven't completed the second rank mission even after a full week. Mang Tian harshly said. Tang Wuling hastily responded. That's not it, teacher. I've just been preoccupied with my training and studies lately. I really haven't had the time to go to your workshop, but I had planned to go tomorrow, on my rest day. Mang Tian went silent for a moment. You're only in the 1st grade, yet you're already so busy. Tang Wuling explained the course of events he had gone through starting from his arrival. As he spoke to Mang Tian, both Zhou Sangxi and Shishi inclined their heads towards Tang Wuling in search of gossip. Come over tomorrow then. I'm also here now. Mang Tian hung up after saying these last few words. Hey, Tang Wuling. Didn't you say you have no money? How are you able to afford a soul communicator? Shishi questioned unhappily. Tang Wuling answered. This was part of the benefits I gained after I joined the association. I didn't buy it. I wouldn't be able to afford it otherwise. Association? What association? Zhou Sangxi curiously asked. Yan Xiao also turned his head from the side in curiosity. Needless to say, after a whole week's worth of physical training, everyone's bodies revealed a clear change. Since they were soul masters, their physical recovery speed was much faster than an ordinary person's. Ordinary people would be hard-pressed to endure such harsh training, but for soul masters like them, most would have recovered after a night of meditation. The Blacksmiths Association. My martial soul's innate talent wasn't high enough, so I began to learn how to forge at a young age. Yan Xiao pensively asked, does forging have anything to do with your ridiculous strength? Tang Wuling nodded. Shishi said, a blacksmith, the kind that purifies metal. Tang Wuling nodded once again. And, Shishi said, do well on this path and you'll have a good future. I remember my father buying a mecha core component that had been 1,000 refined once. It seemed to have been really expensive. How about you purify some metals for me once you reach the Grandmaster rank? Tang Wuling inquisitively asked, you want to become a mecha master? Shishi proudly answered, of course. I come from a family of famous mecha masters. It's only natural that I want to become one as well. When he spoke these words, both Zhou Sangxi or Yan Xiao had climbed down from their bunks with their curiosity piqued. For youngsters like them, mechas were the dream. Tell me. What is a real mecha master like? What qualifications would a person need to meet? Zhou Sangxi urged him on with a childlike wonder befitting his age. Shishi had grown familiar with them these last few days, and no longer had his initial air of arrogance. The atmosphere within their room had now grown harmonious. After countless years of development, soul mechas have gone from smaller frames to larger than back during the modern era. Despite going through a cycle, their individual strengths have increased by a great deal. A mecha of a powerful mecha master would be about the same size as their body. Even with its small size, the amplification effects are huge. With the addition of its fusion with martial soul, one can become a super solider. Supposedly, the mechas of divine rank mecha masters were personally created by their own hands. Tang Wuling said, then doesn't that mean all divine rank mecha masters are blacksmiths? Shishi rolled his eyes. Of course they aren't. When I say create, I meant that the mecha master personally inscribed a raise into their mecha so that it's more compatible with them. Naturally, if they also happen to be skilled in forging, then the compatibility rating would be even higher. So, how high is your forging skill then? Tang Wuling hesitated for a moment, but he felt that he couldn't lie to his friends. He had already considered Shishi's friends since the day Shishi had stood up to Muzai for him. I'm just barely able to complete the 1,000 refinements, Tang Wuling said. Yan Xiao and Zhou Sangxi didn't have much knowledge of forging, but the aristocratic Shishi was somewhat aware of details of the field. He asked in astonishment, are you saying you've already reached the rank of Grandmaster? Tang Wuling shook his head. I haven't yet. I'm still just a second rank blacksmith. Wow. Yan Xiao cried in alarm. Although he had little knowledge with regards to forging, he still understood the rankings of professions such as blacksmithing. You're only 9 years old yet you've already reached the second rank in your trade? It had to be stated that a second-rank craftsman was already able to provide for themselves and survive within their association. All of them were still children, but they understood that even if Tang Wulin's martial soul was just blue silver brass, as a second-rank craftsman, his situation was completely different. There was a qualitative leap between a second-rank craftsman and a third-rank craftsman. Once one reached the third rank, they would have stepped through the threshold between commoners and the upper class. Moreover, once they reached the fifth rank, they would be considered one of the elites of society, regardless of their trade. At that rank, they would receive the title Master Craftsman. Shishi's eyes spun as he came to a realization and wrapped an arm around Tang Wulin's neck. Tang Wulin, we're brothers, aren't we? Tang Wulin unhappily shot a glance at him, with nothing to offer while hiding evil intentions like that. What are you up to? Just say it directly. Shishi gave a mischievous laugh. I'm not up to anything. How about you'll help me forge mecha components in the future? How about it? I'll definitely pay you the market price. Tang Wuling distrustfully said, what do you need me for? Can't you just go to the Blacksmiths Association and directly issue a request? It would also be at the market price. Shishi looked at him in amazement. It seems that you don't have a good understanding of the blacksmithing industry yet. Do you think that just because a task is issued, it is guaranteed to be taken? There are very few blacksmiths at the Grandmaster rank and above, and the people who are willing to thousand refine something are even fewer. Not just anyone can issue a task. In order to switch out all of the old components for thousand refined versions for my father's mecha, it had taken no less than 4 years, and that was with the good relationship he had with the Blacksmiths Association. You're able to thousand refine things right now. In a few years, you'll have reached the Grandmaster rank. If you become my personal blacksmith, then wouldn't I be able to get a full thousand refined mecha even sooner? That's the symbol of a true noble. After hearing him speak, both Yan Xiao and Zhou Tangxi's eyes lit up. Tang Wuling helplessly nodded. Fine. I'll help you guys once I've reached that rank. Good brother. Shishi tightly hugged him before loudly declaring, from this day forth, Tang Wulin is under the protection of I. Shishi, whoever dares to offend him will answer to my light dragon dagger. Kiki, Yan Xiao coughed out. You should wait until you can defeat Douluo before saying such words. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.